I usually get like a thumbs up or something. Are we good? Okay, cool. Hey, welcome to the gathering on this snowy day slash night slash potential week. I don't know how long it's going to go on, but thanks for braving it with us. I will back up, sure. Better? More? More better? It's always something. I invite us to stand and sing as we join together in worship. Great is your faithfulness, O God. You wrestle with the sinner's restless heart. You lead us against others into mercy, and nothing can keep us apart. So remember your people, remember your children, remember your promise, oh God. Your grace is enough, your grace is enough, your grace is enough for me. Great is your love and justice, God of Jacob. You use the weak to lead the strong. You lead us in the song of your salvation, and all your people sing along. So remember your people, remember your children, remember your promise, oh God. Your grace is enough, your grace is enough, your grace is enough for me. Your grace is enough. Your grace is enough. Your grace is enough for me. So remember your people, remember your children, remember your promise, oh God. Your grace is enough. Your grace is enough. Your grace is enough for me. Your grace is enough. Heaven reaching out to us. Your grace is enough for me. Oh God, your grace is enough. Oh, I'm covered in your love. Your grace is enough for me. For me. For me. Hey, welcome to the gathering again. If you're already standing, I invite you to remain standing as we do a small time of greeting, and I'll bring us back together with a few announcements. Hey, so yeah, we're gonna go on with the next two songs, but before we do, just wanted to give a low-key welcome to Michael Jordan, who's Connor's dad, and we don't want to swarm him or make him feel, uncomfortable, but just wanted to point out he's here and he's great, so you should meet him. Connor is here, and his leg, knee, ACL area is struggling, so prayers for him, but he is skillfully using his left leg for the kick. So he's already pretty impressive. So next level business. Very cool. Thank you, Connor. And just wanted to point out that we do have a basket up here for offering. We don't have a necessary offering time where we come and pass it out and collect. But if you ever feel led, whether it's during the service, after the service, that is there, and that's what that is for. So let us continue to lift our voices, our hands, our feet in worship. Strength will rise as we wait upon the Lord. Wait upon the Lord, we will wait upon the Lord. Strength will rise as we wait upon the Lord. Wait upon the Lord, we will wait upon the Lord. Our God, you reign forever. Our hope, our strong deliverer. You are the everlasting God, the everlasting God. You do not faint, you grow weary. You're the defender of the weak. You comfort those in need. You lift us up on wings like eagles. Strength will rise. Strength will rise as we wait upon the Lord. Wait upon the Lord. We will wait upon the Lord. Strength will rise as we wait upon the Lord. Wait upon the Lord. We will wait upon the Lord our God. You reign forever. Our hope, our strong deliverer. You are the everlasting God, the everlasting God. You do not faint, you your perfect plan. All I am is yours. Take these feet. I know they stumble, but you use the weak. You use the humble, so please use me. 'Cause all I am is yours. I give you all my life. I'm letting it go. A living sacrifice, no longer my own. All I am is yours. All I am is yours. So take this heart, set it on fire, shining in the dark. I wanna tell the world of who you are. All I am is yours. Oh yeah. I give you all my life. I'm letting it go. A living sacrifice, no longer my own. All I am is yours. All I am is yours. I give you everything. To you I belong. Every beat of my heart, the breath in my lungs. All I am is yours. All I am is yours. I lift my hands up, God, I surrender. All that I am for your glory, your honor, your fame. I lift my hands up, God, I surrender to you. I give you all my life, letting it go. A living sacrifice, no longer my own. All I am is yours. All I am is yours. I give you everything. To you I belong. Every beat of my heart, the breath in my lungs. All I am is yours. All I am is yours.
So Susan Wirt was unable to be here tonight. She didn't feel quite comfortable driving on the roads. You may be seated, or you can stand if you want. It's totally up to you, Carl. So we are instead going to play her moment of gratitude from this morning's service. So hope you like it.
Good morning on this, the second Sunday of stewardship season at Calvary. As you can see from the stewardship logo on the front of the worship bulletin, today's theme is I'm Inspired. To me, the light of a candle like this is only slightly inspiring by itself, but it has the potential to be much more inspiring at a candlelight service. Picture this. All the lights of the sanctuary are turned out. There is only the light of one small candle like this one. When the person holding that one candle lights another person's candle, and that person lights another candle, and so on, the light of more and more candles moves up and down all the aisles and rows. With every person sharing light by lighting another candle and everyone engaged together, soon the sanctuary is awash in the gentle glow of candlelight. Candlelight that is sufficient to read the words of a hymn, something that would be completely impossible with the light of only one candle or just a few candles. For me, stewardship and giving are similar to a candlelight service. Each individual pledge, or just a few pledges, are impossible to ensure that the ministries and missions of Calvary are funded. But the combined pledges of everyone, literally and figuratively, can light up Calvary and its ministries and missions in many important ways. I want to join together with all of you to light up Calvary and its ministries and missions, because Calvary and its people inspire me. I want to continue to be inspired by thought-provoking or challenging sermons, by choir anthems and organ postludes, by the children singing, by the youth reporting on their summer trips and activities, by this beautiful sanctuary, and by the weekly e-news, to name just a few things. Also, I wish for Calvary to continue to inspire by providing ministries like Family Promise, Bootstraps, the men's and women's groups, and other small group opportunities. All of these things and many more are a direct result of everyone engaged together with combined dedication and commitment to make Calvary its best. When we all come together with our pledges, like we all come together at a candlelight service, we can continue to inspire each other and to light up Calvary and its important and essential missions and ministries. And it really does take all of us. I'm in for sure, and I hope you will spend some time thinking about everything and everyone that inspires you here at Calvary. And I hope that you too will be inspired to pledge and increase your pledge by taking into account everything and everyone at Calvary that has meaning and provides inspiration for you.
He's gone. Thank you, Susan, wherever you are. We are turning to our scripture reading for tonight. It is from 1 Kings chapter 12, verses 1 through 17 and 25 through 29. And this is the Voice version. Rehoboam traveled to Shechem, a border city between Ephraim and Manasseh, because the entire community of Israel had gathered there to install him as the new king. Jeroboam, Nebat's son, received word of this while he was living in Egypt, hiding from King Solomon. Then the people of the northern tribes called for Jeroboam, and with him the entire community of Israel spoke to Solomon's son, Rehoboam. Jeroboam and Israel said, "During your father's time, he weighed us down with heavy workloads and caused us so much suffering. We have come here to ask you to lighten the load your father laid upon us. If you do so, we will be your willing servants." Rehoboam replied, "Go away for 3 days, then come back to me. I need to think this over." And the people left. King Rehoboam then went to talk with the elders who had been in the service of his father Solomon when he was alive. He asked for their advice on this matter. Rehoboam said to the elders, "I have come here for your wisdom. What guidance do you have for me? What should I say to these people who are asking me to lighten their workload?" The elders replied, "Serve your people today, do exactly as they ask, and offer them kind words and encouragement. If you serve them in this way today, then they will be devoted to you and will serve you forever." But Rehoboam ignored the advice of the elders. Instead, he went to consult his childhood friends, the young men with whom he had grown up and who served him. Rehoboam said, "What guidance do you have for me? What should I say to these people who have made this request to me? Lighten our load, the one your father has placed upon us." The young men replied, "When you meet again with these people who have made this request to you, your father weighed us down with heavy workloads and caused us much suffering. We ask you to lighten the load your father laid upon us. Speak firmly. You think my father was hard on you? My little finger is more potent than my father's loins. My father weighed you down with a heavy load, but I will make your load even heavier. My father used whips to command you, and you thought that was harsh. I will use a scourge with the sting of scorpions." Jeroboam and all the people of Israel came back to meet with Rehoboam after they'd been away for 3 days. They did this because Rehoboam had given them this instruction: "Go away for 3 days, then come back to me." So Rehoboam spoke to the people in a tyrannical tone and completely ignored the advice of the experienced elder. Rehoboam instead heeded the advice of the young men with whom he had grown up. Rehoboam said, "My father weighed you down with a heavy load, but I will make your load even heavier. My father used whips to command you, and you thought that was harsh. I will use a scourge with the sting of scorpions." After King Rehoboam had finished speaking to Jeroboam and the Israelites, the king did not listen to them as the Eternal intended. Thus Rehoboam fulfilled the promise the Eternal One gave through the prophet Ahijah the Shilonite to Jeroboam, Nebat's son. The people of Israel realized the king had not listened to them. The Israelites said, "What lot of David's belongs to us? We have no inheritance in Jesse's son. Go back to your tents, Israel. Take care of your own house, David. There is no good news for us." The Israelites left and went back to their homes. But Rehoboam ruled over all the Israelites who lived in the cities that were part of Judah. In Israel, Jeroboam fortified Shechem in the hilly land of Ephraim. He lived there for a time. Then he took on another project and fortified Penuel. Jeroboam in his heart said, "It is possible that the kingdom might return to the house of David. If these people make sacrifices in the Eternal's temple in Jerusalem, then their hearts will go back to their Lord, even to Rehoboam, Judah's king. They will surely execute me and go back to Rehoboam, Judah's king." The king sought out advice and then cast 2 calves out of gold. Jeroboam said to Israel, "It's too difficult for you to travel all the way to Jerusalem to make your sacrifices. These are your gods, Israel, who led you out of Egypt." Jeroboam placed one of the golden calves in Bethel and the other in Dan.
Thought I could use the same height as Alice, and apparently I couldn't. My height always is a dream of mine to grow, and it just isn't one that will be achieved, and that's okay. It's a strange text, but all of 1st and 2nd Kings read odd to us. And part of it is the governing structure that Israel had. So while we use the language of kings and queens in 1st and 2nd Kings, it's not in the same capacity as we see monarchs today. It's not in the same way as an entire kingdom being ruled by different faiths like we see today. What we had back then was the people of Israel being governed by a monarchy. And last week we had Pastor Ann, I think she was here with you all, talking about how the people of Israel chose to go through a monarchy. They were seeing others take up this way of governance, and they said, that's what we want. It seems to make sense. It seems to work for people. Can we have that, God? And God's like, here's some warnings, but if this is really what you're wanting, here you go. And so the stories found in 1st and 2nd Kings are how the people of Israel governed themselves. For us today, we come from multiple faith backgrounds, multiple perspectives. And so even though we have some connection of understanding what a king or a queen might do, it's not in the same capacity as we see here with Rehoboam and Jeroboam. And the reason for that is they were talking about the people of Israel, the people who had come out of the Exodus. And again, it's this story of the people forgetting their liberation, forgetting the fact that it was God who led them out, and they lean into their fear once again. And we actually see very similar parallels to the Exodus. First, we see Rehoboam coming in and almost turning into Pharaoh in a lot of ways. Your labor shall be harsh, you shall not rest. And forgetting the commandments of being able to take Sabbath, that we would not produce the way that the Pharaoh required us to produce. And we would stop all production and rest. If God rested on the 7th day, so shall we. And Rehoboam forgets the chance to offer freedom once again to harsh labor. And then with Jeroboam, we see golden calves being made. We see this with Aaron. So as Moses goes up to receive the 10 commandments, Aaron is there with the people, and they're starting to get a little stir crazy, and they're trying to figure out, what do we do next? And so Aaron creates a golden calf and says, "This is your God, O Israel, the one that led you out of Egypt." We see that same language here from Jeroboam. And what we see is this desire to figure out how to govern oneself, without the wisdom of God being the thing that guided them. Both Rehoboam and Jeroboam find it within themselves to fear for their own position. And they're not bad for it. We all have these very earnest moments of wondering, well, will I be okay in this situation? Or what will come of me? What will people think of me in my leadership? And so we can fault them or say they should have known better or that they shouldn't have repeated history. And yet I think any of us here today can say we've even repeated the own history in our own lives because we sometimes forget to remind ourselves of the stories we've come from or the stories that have shaped us. And that's what they did. They were not the ones led out of Israel, and yet we expect them to remember the stories of the people led out of Israel. And while it was a key story with Passover and being able to understand how they functioned as a people, they also were generations after this took place. And so we're asking them to be as mindful as the ones that forgot in the moment of the Exodus, like Aaron, to say, no, you're supposed to worship God earnestly and faithfully. And yet we see the people of Israel reminding them of a chance to respond differently. And so it's Jeroboam at the beginning with the people of Israel coming to King Rehoboam and saying, can you please lighten the load that your father put upon us? And Rehoboam takes the chance to discern. He doesn't answer in the moment. He seeks counsel. He seeks the counsel of the people who worked alongside his father. And then he also seeks counsel of the people he's grown up with. And in that moment, he had a chance to remember the liberation of his people and remember the liberation that the people were asking for, and that God is the one who provides the freedom, and God is the one that reminds us we do not have to just produce in order to be worthy or in order to be seen and be taken care of. It's that even in our rest, honoring that Sabbath, that we find our worth and that we find our humanity. And yet Rehoboam chooses to lean into that fear of, no, I'm going to be tougher than my dad. We also don't know the inner workings of the family dynamics between Solomon and Rehoboam, so there could be a lot of stuff fueling that conversation, especially around, well, maybe people didn't think Rehoboam could have been king. Maybe they didn't think he was worthy. And so he's living into those narratives potentially of like, well, I'm going to show you. We all have those weird family dynamics of being like, well, I'm going to show you I'm tough enough or I can prove my worth. Instead of leaning into the moments of going, my worth is found in God. And in that alone, I am able to heal and make choices and lead. And then what we miss in our narrative lectionary text today is essentially Rehoboam sends a taskmaster to go out and order the people of Israel to work really hard. And the people of Israel don't like it and they kill him. And at that point, the house of David and the people of Israel, minus 2 tribes, were completely at odds. And then we see Jeroboam becoming king over the 10 tribes that had left the house of David. So at the end of our text today, it said, and the king discerned. That's Jeroboam as king. And so that's a little confusing because we have different verses coming into play. But what we see with King Jeroboam of the 10 tribes is he's nervous that if the people of Israel keep going to worship in Jerusalem, that they may see the ways of Rehoboam and the people who are there in Judah, and they may turn against him. And so instead of allowing that to happen, he creates false worship. He says, I am so nervous that they may go back to the house of David that I will provide you golden calves in 2 of the key cities, so you don't even have the option to go back and see what is taking place. Again, a chance to simply say, no, I trust, we need to worship earnestly. We need to go to the temple. We need to be able to do this. Or simply saying, we're going to create new temples here without golden calves, without idols. And yet, he didn't. And there are moments where in our own lives where we're trying to meet the needs of people, but we do so out of fear, that we end up not seeing our own self-worth and creating avenues of false worship or false practices for others because we're not functioning in a way that allows God to live into our wisdom and our discernment. And that's the invitation of the yoke. Will it be one that is heavy burdened? Will it be one that is weighted? Or will it be one that is light? And if you've never held a yoke, so for those who maybe didn't go to school in a country town like myself, a yoke is what is led, a team of oxen typically, in the front so that you can actually tend to the land well. And the yoke is what guides the oxens. And so they're not light, but they are protective. A yoke is protective because if a oxen starts going off path, you're able to guide it well, and it's allowed to be part of a team. And yet, when we think of this, it's one of those where Jesus' burden was light, but it also guided and protected just as a heavy yoke would have. But it didn't add the weight of squishing them down to the ground or making their work heavier or adding to their labor. What it did was give them a parameter to function and be well. And Rehoboam had that chance to make the burden and yoke light for the people, to guide them, give them structure, give them the ability to know where to go and how to tend to their lives well. But instead, he takes the work and he makes it harder for them. And he makes it so much so that it becomes oppressive. And if you've ever tried to get an oxen to move when they are not willing to move, you get attention. And we see that in this very story. The people turned against Rehoboam. It worked completely differently than what Rehoboam thought would. And for us, we have the same invitation. Granted, we may not be kings of our religious groups, and we may not be kings or queens in the current monarchy sense, but each of us have our own leadership. And the question is, will we be one of servanthood, or will we be one that is seeking power through oppression? And because we are followers of the way of Jesus, we get another example. That Jesus was one who said, "Come to me, you who are weary and heavy burdened, and I shall give you rest. For my way is easy and my yoke is light." And so we as followers of Jesus get that same invitation. Whether we're a parent, whether we're a supervisor, whether we're a spouse, whether we're a sibling, whether we're somebody on a team, just because we may or may not hold a title of leader does not mean that we don't get to function in this capacity, that we don't get to learn from the lessons of Rehoboam and Jeroboam. Our lessons are the same. Will we live into loving God with all our heart, soul, strength, and mind, and loving our neighbor as ourselves? Or will we function from a place of fear and say, I have to guide and protect because I don't know what will be? And those are normal conundrums to find ourselves in. It doesn't mean we're terrible people when we choose to go the way of fear. It's that we have to work through what causes us to fear. But sometimes working through what causes us to fear is painful. So we'd rather not add more pain to an already difficult situation. And yet, if we as community for each other can look and say, I'm going to journey alongside you. I can't fix your situation, but I'm here to figure out how to support you. We may have lightened one another's loads. And that's what we're invited to. The commandments are a way for us to figure out how to be good neighbors for each other. And when we allow ourselves to rest and when we don't see our worth by production, and when we don't live into the fear of what could be, but trust in the ways that God has always been, we give ourselves a chance to lead differently. We give ourselves a chance to actually lighten one another's loads. And that can change people's lives. And I don't mean that flippantly or like in the ways of rainbows of like, we can change the world. Maybe I do. But I also mean it in the sense of, if you've ever been struggling and someone saw you, like earnestly saw you, and just was present with you, that changes how you can function. It gives you the chance to take the next step. It gives you the chance to take the next breath and say, oh, I don't want to continue with this struggle, but I know I can because I'm not alone. And so we join each other in our yokes. And we carry through and we move forward, knowing that the work of the gospel is the thing that we are seeking to till, that we are seeking to make work. And the one who is guiding us is Jesus. So our way will be easy and our burden will be light when we do it together. Rehoboam forgot that. Jeroboam forgot that. And sometimes we will forget that. But the beauty of the God we worship is that the invitation is always present. It's not a one-time invitation. It's not this thing that you miss simply because one time you function from a place of fear and end up causing harm, that it goes away. It's the chance from in those moments where we function from fear or harm that we learn from empathy and that we're able to meet people in new ways and allow healing to take place. And so while Rehoboam and Jeroboam will not be the last ones in the book of 1st or 2nd Kings to forget their history or to repeat it, we can learn from them. And we too can give them empathy and say, we don't know what went on to lead you to make the choices you've made. But hopefully we can learn. Hopefully we can lighten each other's load. Because every day, in some capacity, we are given the invitation of a yoke. Will we help others to make it light? Or will we find ways to make it heavy? I pray that whomever comes across each and every one of you seeks to make your way light. That they are able to see you for the beautiful child of God that you are, and to give you strength to continue. Because this journey is long, but it is beautiful when we are doing it together. And thanks be to God that no matter what, we are led by the one who proclaims that he will always journey with us, and that his way is easy and his burden is light. So may we find the confidence and strength in that truth in our own day-to-day lives. Amen.
Please respond in worship as you feel led, whether that's by standing or continuing to sit, lifting our voices, bowing our heads, closing our eyes. Fullness of eternal promise, stirring in your sons and daughters, earth revealing heaven's wonders. Spirit come, Spirit come. What you spoke is now unfolding, and all your children shall behold it. Dreams awaken in this moment. Spirit come, Spirit come. Pour it out, let your love run over. Here and now, let your glory fill this house. Pour it out, let your love run over. Here and now, let your glory fill this house. how the world awaits your presence. And this power is within us. We will rise to be your witness. Spirit come, Spirit come, pour it out, let your love run over. Here and now, let your glory fill this house. Pour it out, let your love run over. Here and now, let your glory fill this house. Come and fill this place, God, with your Spirit, with your presence, Lord. Tongues of fire, testifying of the Son, one desire. Spirit come, speak revival. Prophesy like it is done, one desire. Spirit come, tongues of fire, testifying of the Son, one desire. Spirit come, speak revival. Prophesy like it is done, one desire. Spirit come, Spirit come. Let our hearts continue burning, for our King is soon returning. As we hold to this assurance, Spirit come, Spirit come, Spirit come, Spirit come. Pour it out, let your love run over. Here and now, let your glory fill this house. Pour it out, let your love run over. Here and now, let your glory fill this house. Whoa, tongues of fire, testifying of the Son, one desire. Spirit come, speak revival. Prophesy like it is done, one desire. Spirit come, tongues of fire, testifying of the Son, one desire. Spirit come, one desire. Prophesy like it's done, one desire. Spirit come, Spirit come. Spirit come. Who, oh Lord, could save themselves? Their own still. Yes, who, oh Lord, could save themselves? Their own soul could heal. 'Cause your grace was deeper than the sea. Your grace is deeper still. 'Cause you alone can rescue, you alone can save. You alone can lift us from the grave. 'Cause you came down to find us, let us out of death. To you alone belongs the highest praise. 'Cause you, oh Lord, have made a way, the great divide you heal. For when our hearts were far away, your love went further still. Oh yes, your love goes further still. 'Cause you alone can rescue, you alone can save. You alone can lift us from the grave. You came down to find us, let us out of death. To you alone belongs the highest praise. To you alone belongs the highest praise. You alone. So we lift up our eyes, lift up our eyes to the giver of life. We lift up our eyes, lift up our eyes to the giver of life. We lift up our eyes, lift up our eyes to the giver of life. We lift up our eyes, lift up our eyes to the giver of life. And we lift up our eyes, lift up our eyes to the giver of life. And we lift up our eyes, lift up our eyes to the giver of life. Hey, yeah, we lift up our eyes, lift up our eyes to the giver of life. Lift up our eyes, lift up our eyes to the giver of life. 'Cause you alone can rescue, you alone can save. You alone can lift us from the grave. You came down to find us, let us out of death. To you alone belongs the highest praise. To you alone belongs the highest praise. To you alone belongs the highest praise.
May you go into this week knowing that Jesus is the one who guides you, and the teachings and ways of Jesus shall be light. And that no matter how difficult our lives may become, that we are never alone. And the burden of Jesus is one that will always welcome you and offer rest. So take courage, for at least one space in our lives will always meet us with grace and mercy. Go in peace.